All right, welcome everyone, Akwaba, to a chat with the activist and artist Mutombo the Poet. So my name is Girish Daswani. I am an associate professor at the University of Toronto here in Canada, which is also known as Turtle Island. It's on the indigenous lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and many other Métis and indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. I'm here as just to have a conversation with my friend Mutombo the Poet. Before we start the conversation, I would like to introduce him briefly and to give the context for this chat. So as a form of introduction, I'm just going to read, in case some of you don't know who he is, I'm going to read off his web page. Mutombo the Poet is a spoken word artist based in Ghana. He started performing in Ghana in 2006, a time when there was very little or no spoken word poetry scene. He was a resident of the open mic show, Bless the Mic, and was the first poet to perform as a guest on the TV3 reality show Mentor. Now, as far as I know, Mutombo is also someone who is also an activist. He was one of the few people who joined one of the earlier marches before the Occupy march in 2014, One Small Step, with Golda Addo and a few others. So he was a part of a group that has consistently been talking about politics, engaging in politics, and speaking to power. So this is why I want to invite him here. The context in which we are here is the Global Citizen Festival, which happened not too long ago. And it claims to be, and I quote them, the world's largest movement of action takers and impact makers dedicated to ending extreme poverty now. And now they put cap locks. Then I close quotes. The festival took place at Black Star Square in Accra, Ghana. And at the same time, it was also happening, or maybe around the same time, at the New York Central Park. And now climate change, this is important because I'm sure we'll come back to this. Climate change and renewable energy were key talking points. And during the Accra festival, Nigerian activist Yemi Adamolekun challenged the audience to occupy and to quote her office of the citizen and pay attention to the people that represent you and how they represent you. And she said, remind them of their duties. This happened just before the famous artist and an entertainer, rapper from Ghana, Sarkodie, gave his performance, and he gave a diet version of pizza and burger. And soon after that, Ghana's current and sitting president, Nana Akudo-Addo, walks onto stage. Now, the context is, if you were watching, whether the recording or live or you were there, you would have heard, there was no doubt about it, booing and shouting and clapping. So there was a mixture of sounds, and some were waving him off stage and clapping their hands in unison. I believe it was 1, 2, 3, and they were doing this. So the voice, the noise was pretty loud, and it basically disrupted his ability to speak. And he had, I believe, a message to share. But it drowned out the Ghanaian president's talk of climate change, poverty, inclusiveness, and equality. And he also announced the Africa Prosperity Fund, and he invited funding from global corporate groups. So basically corporations, private multinational corporations. So what I want to talk about today is how people and in the crowd occupied the office of the citizen that night to express what I saw was a dissatisfaction with the elected leader. So the question is, when does booing become about caring about the country? And that is when I say, I asked my friend Mutombo, because he was there. Mutombo, can you come into the conversation and tell us what happened?
A little bit of correction. The march that I took part in was called One Simple Step. One Simple Step. Yeah, that's a little bit of correction. and as people know, I started as a spoken word artist. Even though I am slow now on that field, I'm doing so many other things, in the arts. I'm filming, I'm taking photos. Yeah, so I'm still in the art. Now, coming back to the events, the Global Citizen events, a friend of mine told me about it, and I hadn't gone out in a while, so I was like, oh, let me just try and get tickets and and go and see what's up. The procedure to get the ticket was quite fun. You have to answer questions, a couple of questions here and there. Then after some days, you would get your tickets. So I eventually got my ticket. And I mean, actually on that day, I wasn't even gonna go because now the old me is quite, reluctant when it comes to doing things. But actually, I still jacked myself up and I went with a friend. And I went just to see art, to see people perform, and all that, because I hadn't been outside in a while. And I had no clue that the president was coming to speak or was also, on the lineup. No clue. And I'm saying this, no clue, because after the booing, like things came up saying that, the NDC paid people. I don't belong to any party. I don't do party politics at all. I am a mere citizen of Ghana, and that, and that's it. So they announced that the president was coming. I was like, what? And for some years now, anytime I hear or see him anywhere, whether on TV, whether online, whether on my Twitter, I get so furious. I get so angry. So when I heard he was coming, I was like, what can I do? Or what should I do? So the presenter or the host or the MC said his name, and like, I didn't even think about it. I started to boo. And I wasn't just booing, I was actually screaming. And everybody around me was looking at me strange about who is this guy. And people actually started cheering him when they mentioned his name. Like you could hear claps and all that. But only me in the midst of these people were like, boo, oh, like I was just shaming him, boo. And no one was actually paying attention. But after like 30, 40 seconds, people around me started to boo too. And then I could hear it spread. I could hear it spread. Then the whole place were booing. And then the booing changed to pa, 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 away, pa, 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 away. Like, and I'm like, yeah, finally, we have a space or, a platform where I have actually met this man face to face, because Charlie, where am I going to meet him? I have not been in the same space with him. I don't even want to be in the same space with him. This wasn't planned, So, it went on for minutes throughout his speech. He had to pause for a minute for the boos. You could see his face, change, becoming different things all at once. So yeah, that is basically the summary of what happened, last two weeks.
Mutombo, that I didn't even know that you were the one who instigated, or let's say started it.
Charlie, right when they mentioned his name, no, I started to and I was screaming. If I lost my voice after the show, right after the show, if you would lose your voice, it takes time, maybe after, a couple of hours, when the show ended and we're walking away, my friend will tell you this, my voice was gone. So that should tell you how much I screamed. I had to, I was actually straining, and I had to force, and I didn't care if I was the only person booing, I actually wouldn't have cared.
But Charlie, you were not the only one. This is why, I was looking at the Twitter and there were plenty of people who were tweeting and saying, there are lots of people responding in like a disruptive way, booing, clapping, in a way that was like clap, clap, clap away. So at some point, it was not just one person, it was a collective.
The whole space,
So why did you feel like you had to boo the president? What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, the inspiration is life. My life now, the life of my kids, my family. I have lived in Ghana all my life. And if you know how we were trained, well, for me, I grew up with my mom and my grandmother, and how they trained me, like, don't get me wrong, they were so amazing, they were super, but growing up has now taught me that some of the things that they taught me were wrong. In my household, there was no single day when I could talk back. Anytime someone came to our house to speak to my mom or my grandmom or to visit, I had to get out of the living room. And if I was there, I had to keep quiet, right? And that has been ingrained in me. That was ingrained in me for a very, very, very long time. I had to bring all of those things out after they died. I had to, relearn so many things, bring out all those things. That's right now, I look back and go like, no, that wasn't right. I had to work my way to bring all of those things out and bring new things in, things that I think will work for me. And one of those things is to speak out. No matter who you are dealing with, is to be able to speak out. For me, even, when something has been ingrained in you, it takes so much work to bring it out. For me, there are times that you'll get me, and I wouldn't speak out. I can go for years without speaking out. But if it comes to things that affect my life, my well-being, the country that I belong, I think that I won't think twice, speaking out. And throughout my life, especially from the from the mid-2000s till now, I've been finding different ways of speaking out. That's one of the reasons I started doing spoken word. That's one of the reasons I learned how to take photos. So if you go to my Instagram, you won't see a photo of me. That isn't me. If it's a photo of me, it's me doing something. But my main Instagram, you won't see a single photo of me. I'm just telling stories. I'm doing film because I want to tell stories, So throughout my life, I'm finding different ways and means to speak out, because I have realized that the same way we go into the ballot box or we go and cast our votes should be the same way I should be able to speak out. Yin yang, yin yang, once I vote, I have to speak out. Even if I don't vote, I have to speak out because we have someone at the helm of affairs who is supposed to do stuff. And we, as the citizen, we are supposed to hold those people accountable. And from where I stand, Ghana is sinking. Ghana has been sinking for years, and it keeps on getting worse. So how do I speak out? How do I speak out? So this chance last 2 weeks, it was a fluke, but it went well. So yeah, I think that I have to speak out because my living condition isn't good.
But Charlie, Mutombo, I think you're also speaking for a lot of Ghanaians.
Yes.
And Ghanaians are suffering more now than I think they have been in a very, very, very long time, both economically, socially, in terms of being able to afford the basic things. And you can't blame it all on Ukraine, right? And you can't blame it all on the pandemic. So and also what you mentioned was very powerful, because I know that there's been in the culture, you are told that as a child, you need to respect the politicians, your elders, and you should not talk back. But I believe things are changing, and there is, and I believe in the room here today, a part of that change is actually in this room right now. We have Bright, we have Oliver, we have One Love the Kubolo, and not only are you activists, some of you are artists, and you are saying things that a generation ago you wouldn't have been allowed to say or have felt comfortable saying. What do you think has changed for you now?
What do I think has, like why I'm speaking now, or I mean, now I think that there are so many ways to express your disapproval. Now we have Twitter, we have, social media, we have, and now the world is getting smaller, and smaller. And we see what people are doing. Look at for instance, for lack of a better example, look at the Arab Spring. I saw it real time. I saw it live. I saw what went on. I saw young people like me, people who look like me, people my age, saying what they have to say, So we are being, exposed, in a good way, as like back in the day, like in the 90s, early 2000s, we didn't have all of these, platforms. Like the world was so big then, that we didn't have all of these platforms. Now we have all of these platforms, and for me, I am actually maximizing them to, express my, my distaste.
So, Mutombo, there was some criticism on like some older politicians were saying that the younger generation and the citizens need to respect the politicians, and how would you respond to these people who are critical of the youth or younger generation openly expressing their anger or openly expressing their love for their country by booing?
Yeah. So one of the people, K.T. Hammond, I remember his face so well. I remember him from back in the 2000s. He has been a member of parliament for the Adanse Asquasqua constituency, somewhere in the Ashanti region, since 2000. Since 2000, he has been a member of parliament. After the booing, and when he came to talk, I actually called, my younger bro who is there, who is in that same, to like, how are things going? And oh, Charlie, and for a man who calls or who refers to the youth as having, coconut heads, I actually expect him to use his sense, right? At least to think, right? So from 2000 up till now, 22 years. 22 years is someone's life, and you have been at the helm of affairs in your constituency for this long, and you haven't, and you have, well, you know what, the way things work in Ghana, right? If you have coins, you don't even need enough money. If you have coins or, one pack of food, you can get anything that you want. you can get anything that you want. That's why the police, people give them bribes, not much, 1 Ghana, 10 Ghana, and you will go scot-free. That's why people are paying policemen to help them commit crime, because they have coins. I'm not even saying money. They have coins. And I'm sure that for folks like Katie Hammond, who is referring to the youth as having coconut heads, nothing in our heads, that we keep beards and the mustache, that we shouldn't talk back to older folks. I'm sure that's why they are still there, because every 4 years he will package food and take it around. And these same people who are suffering like me, who are failing to use their heads, will take these monies and these, pack of food and still vote for him. Like, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand how this thing works. Like, I'm really, really trying to understand how this thing. So we are saying that we want to suffer for 4 years and just chill for 1 day and go back to suffering for four years. Vision, I don't know if you know this. Vision 2000 brides. Do you remember this? Back in the day, Vision 2020. Vision 2020. Like, the main goal was that by 2020, everything, Ghana would be like the States. Ghana would be like the West. Vision 2020 is 2 years like gone. And Ghana is, if Ghana isn't where she was 10 years ago, we are going backwards. Like, I'm still talking about power off. I'm still talking about water. Like, I am complaining about the same things that I remember my mom complaining about back in the day, 20 years ago plus. We are still complaining about the same things. So for folks like Katie Hammond, how, like, it blows my mind. Why are we still giving people like that votes? Like, are we still trapped in the, hey, you worship them, you have to worship them because they have more money than you, or like, we are cursed? I have been trying to find answers. Where does this stem from? And trust me, at the end of this term, you will find long queues, people going to cast their votes for these same two folks who have been messing us up since time. So for folks like Katie Hammond, like, it's sad. It is sad because I'm sure, I'm 100% sure, no matter the school that he's been, my small sense can think better than him.
Achale, this makes me think of One Love song, Never Go Change.
Never Go Change.
It's like the cycle. It's like you have two political parties in Ghana. For those of you who don't know, there's the NDC and the NPP that have been competing. There are other political parties, but these are the two that almost rotate each every 4 years. But there's been the NPP government now in the second term, and Nana Akudo-Addo is the president, and this is his second and last term as president. But there was a lot of hope. 2016, there was a lot of hope because the NDC government was linked to Doomso, it was linked to corruption, it was linked to all these, bad governance. That's why you had Occupy, you had the Doomso must stop, you had all these expressions of protest, demonstrations against bad governance, right? And then hope, change is coming was the theme. 2016, the NPP won. And now people are saying things are worse than they were before. So, and this is the second term. So this is almost like, it's been more than 4 years now. So I guess what is it that creates these patterns of things not changing? Like things don't change is the theme of the song. If One Love wants to chime in as well, he's free to chime in right there if you want to come in.
He's still here. Hey,
Oh,
he's still here.
He's pretending to be here. So what do you think? Perhaps you go first, and then we can open the conversation to those of us who are here.
Yeah. So your question is why is there, like,
why you say that you just to quote you, you said someone with some small sense. I actually believe that the people with the so-called the qualifications to rule,
it's sad, yes,
are not doing their job, but the ones who are actually speaking truth to power are the people who are suffering, right? The ones who are on the ground, the ones who can see what is happening, the artists like you. So what do you think? You said 2020 has come and gone. So why? Why haven't things changed?
So I wish I could sometimes speak like a politician and give you figures and facts and all that, right? Yeah, sometimes I wish that I could speak like folks like you and Oliver and give you facts, but I wasn't built that way. What I would say is that I remember the Kumi Preko work so well. I left my home and then went to join and was following like a small boy, following them and all that, because like the grown folks around my hood were going and I had to follow them, and I'm not so into the politics in this country. Like you wouldn't catch me turning on the radio and listening to politics and all that. But when Akufo-Addo was going to lead the new patriotic party, I was like, oh, that guy, I know that guy, I remember that guy. That guy was doing stuff back in the day. That guy stands for the same things that I stand for, right? I had voted like twice, and all was for the other party. All was for the NDDC, and I was actually voting because of my mom. My mom was a staunch NDC member. So I was like, to pay tribute to her. Let me, anytime I vote, I'll just vote for the NDC. But when I voted like twice, or 3 times. But in 2016, I was like, this man, let me give him my vote for the first time because of what he stands for, right? Because of who I remember him for back in the day, Kumi Preko. I remember that day so well. So I did vote for him, and I'm expecting that things would change. At least if things won't change, there would be a little bit of hope. There could, there's the sun would shine just a little bit, just for a start. Garish, I have never ever regretted anything in my life than what I did in 2016. I have never ever regretted anything in my life than going to join that long queue to give this man my vote, because I'm like, yeah, this is the guy. It was the worst mistake that I've ever done in my life. It's like they are all the same. Don't get me wrong. MPP, NDC, they are all the same. But I always use this weak, example. If, NDC, if, the Ghana was a tree, or, the government was a tree, or whatever was a tree, the NDC was cutting down branch by branch. But MPP is actually cutting down the tree. they are actually cutting down the tree. Like the arrogance, like the disregard, and Charlie, they are thieves. And really, I think that they actually came with a plan to steal and to destroy. We are stealing. We are stealing. We are stealing. Yeah, the grants, the loans, we are stealing. But they are also destroying. See our what are our bodies now?
That's what I was going to say, because that for those of you who don't know what Kume Apreku means, was in 1995, and it means you may as well kill me now. That was the meaning of it, right? You may as well kill me now. And the current president was one of the leaders of the group. He wasn't the only one, but there were the Alliance for Change, right? And it was inspiring for lots of activists today, even those who are not on board with the present government. They were inspired by that, like you. But you talked about the environment, and that is what pains me, because what we saw happening. I want to open this up to everyone in the room.
Yeah.
What was happening was a call for an end, or a call for thinking about climate change and ending, creating new ways of thinking about a renewable energy, how we deal with our water bodies. And Galamsey has been happening even more. Galamsey is basically, for those of you who don't know, illegal gold mining, or a mining that has been polluting Ghana's waters and destroying also. There's a lot of destruction of the natural habitat, the forest, Atewa forest, for the mining that is taking place there. So there is a destruction of violence that's taking place. And so if you kill the environment, you will kill yourself. You are killing yourselves. Yeah. So I want to just pause for a second and ask anyone in the room to participate, have a conversation with us. You can just turn on your mic and speak. But Bright, if you can also say something, share your
maybe before I do that, I've been listening to Mutombo and having a very good laugh. I often say that all these things provide content for someone like me to work with, but there's only so much that you can take. There is this old adage, and those of you who are interested in politics would know, it's usually attributed to, I think, Lenin also, though that's somehow doubted, that if you pluck the feathers of a chicken, you can later give it just a little bit of comfort and it will forget all the violence you have enacted on it. I think that goes to speak very clearly to the situation that we are having in Ghana right now. Nothing seems to be working. And I also don't want to sound as if I'm complaining too much, but nothing seems to be working. Electricity power can go out for over a week, and we are not even told what the truth of the matter, what the cause of the problem is. Like, how can you live in a country like this? Exactly a few days after it's been announced that electricity tariffs are going up, everything, the cost of living just seems to have shot through the roof. Everything has gone up except people's salaries. If you were listening to campaigning, messages some years ago, this current government was calling on the former government to resign out of decency and apologize to Ghanaians because everything shows that they failed to manage the economy, manage the environment, put a stop to Galamsey. They failed. It was Nana Akudo-Addo who publicly called on the former government to step down out of decency, go and sit somewhere and think about themselves. Because what the US dollar was equal to 4 cedis at the time. 4 cedis. The value has like over 200%. Where is his decency? If he had set a certain yardstick to call on a failing government to step down, where is his decency? What is happening to Galamsey? What is happening to the Chinese who are being arrested? They tell us they are deported. 2 years later, they've been in Ghana all along. They own or they possess Ghana cards. Do other Ghanaians have Ghana cards? This is the president who has publicly held a ceremony to outdoor and like what's the word? Launch galamsey equipment. It is absurd. And then you come on a stage that is supposed to be set aside for the spreading of positive messaging, and you come and tell Ghanaians that Russia invaded Ukraine and that is why we are suffering. I mean, this is, can we cuss on the talk?
I mean,
never mind.
I
mean, this is the same, stuff that they've been dishing to Ghanaians ever since. It's like we are just waiting for something to happen somewhere, so we blame our mismanagement on it. So for him to come on the stage and I think people went to the show because they wanted some willful distraction. For one day, people wanted to forget about all the problems and go and see their favorite American pop stars playing pop music on the stage. A stage that I personally have a lot of critique about anyway. So for him to appear on the stage and get booed, I was very, very impressed, inspired. I think that was the most activism that happened in the whole concert, because all the music that was played, I mean, all the artists that were on stage, for me, are not artists that even represent the kind of messaging that I think they hoped to share, But that is a different conversation for a different day. So yeah, I a lot of the things Mutombo is saying resonates with me personally. I've been making work speaking about these things for a number of years now, and like I said, the booing that happened was for me the most activist element of the whole concept, and it happens to even be the one that was not planned or choreographed. This is a president that when he's visiting somewhere in the country, people are paid to wave placards, well-designed placards with and people who are paid to sing praises to him. How would he know that people are? How would the government know you are suffering if when he's coming, you are holding a placard saying, "Oh, 4 more for Nana. Oh, Nana, you are doing well. Ignore the detractors." What? I think this is the first time, if he has never heard it, this is the first time the man has been made to listen to how just a small section of Ghanaians really, really feel about his government, for all the lies that they used to convince people at a time when it seemed people had no hope. These people promised to be the hope, So yeah, something like that. It was so inspiring for me. I think it's something that is very, very historic and definitely deserve to be documented, because already just the day before we saw the state machinery trying to whitewash the story. At one time they said there was no booing. At another time they said people cheered. Now they said the opposition party, who are, by the way, not a solution to these problems. The opposition party paid people monies to come and disgrace the president on an international stage. Why should we do that on an international stage? Were we all not in Ghana when we saw members of parliament turn the parliament house into a boxing ring? Do these people have any self-respect? Are they setting a good precedence for the youth? So for them to also try now and use like some kind of respectability, but like, no, you don't disrespect your elders, and you have coconut heads. If we leave the democracy for you young people, you can't do it with your beards. People keep their beards because they can't afford barbering. Do you know how much it costs to go to a barbering shop? And so I've been doing this, and I hope this incident inspires even more people to do this. Like, again, all respect to artists like FOKM boys who have literally dedicated their whole artistic over to like discussing some of these things. But I hope all other artists come on board, because to turn a blind eye to what the real issues are and be singing about everything else, it's actually doing a disservice to yourself. And even if you're an artist who doesn't want to be activist, there is a problem with your music industry. Everywhere else, artists receive royalties for their music. Nobody in Ghana is getting it. So to be an artist and not even talk about that means you are doing a disservice to yourself. In the name of what? Brand protection? What are you protecting? If you don't tell these guys that, your policies and your leadership is failing us, they would always assume that things are going well. You understand? So yeah, I decided to document this in a typical Abonsam cartoon style, and maybe towards the end of this, I will put it out. But it was a chance for me to try new things. Again, one of my aims of doing this is just to inspire other people to contribute to their voice, because this is the same government that implored on us to be citizens and not to be spectators. So we are only doing the responsibility they themselves have given us to do, and that is all I have to say right now.
You said, you see, now you were laughing at what during a Mutombo, so now he's laughing at what you are saying. But let's laugh together, because this is really important. Your work makes us both think and laugh. And I remember you calling yourself a pseudo historian, because what you document is what the government and the media and the newspapers do not document. Right? You are an alternative archive of knowledge and history, because in the future, when people look back, there was this big festival in Accra, and it was a wonderful event. You have Usher, you have Asakodie, you have Stormzy and so on. But then, will people remember the booing? And as you said, it was spontaneous. So this is why I was impressed. Mutombo, what you did was not just inspire others to respond in a way that they were feeling inside but could not. This is why I think, years of being told you should not express yourself publicly in disrespectful ways, but you broke open that gate and you let everyone just express themselves. And because it was spontaneous, and because, like you said, the man was right in front of you, it allowed for a release, something that was a collective form of a protest that was not planned. It wasn't for one political party. It wasn't staged. It wasn't a performance. It was felt. It was real. It was from the heart, from the spirit. And it was what you were feeling, right? So this is why I'm so impressed by what happened. That's why I say booing is actually a caring, because you care for the lives of the people that are there, not just the people on the stage, but the people who are there, for your family, for your friends, for those who have, I remember in a conversation you had with Bright when your voice was gone, you shared a few stories about trying to find a hospital for your friends. And there were no beds, there were no gas, there was no oxygen. And this is a country where you cannot save people who simply need oxygen. And the president is in front of you talking about climate change when Galamsey is ongoing, and the forest.
Not to cut you, Girish, but to say Galamsey is ongoing is even flatlining the story. The Ashanti regional chairman of the ruling government was just fingered in a nice cut. His company was just fingered in a shootout. The video is online just last week. A mining company that belongs to the Ashanti regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party was fingered in an open shootout with shotguns because they were haggling with some other company over illegal mining concession in another forest reserve. This is not even Atawa. This is like fresh news that is out there. So how can the president, who is the flag bearer of the party, why would he stop his own party, one of the strong heads in his party, and then later come and stand on this same stage and pretend to care about the environment? Why should he even be there talking about Galamsey? Or like these people piss on us without the decency to call it rain. I've been saying this thing all the time, and it's crazy. It's absolutely very, very crazy. There is a picture trending on Ghana Twitter right now of samples of water waters fetched from various rivers. All of them look like chocolate drink. And it's even ironic because now cocoa farmers are choosing to cut down their trees and give their land to illegal miners to mine, because they are making in perhaps a week what they have not been able to make in decades of planting cocoa, which happens to be one of the spines of the Ghana's economy. You see, this is the quagmire that Ghana finds itself in. You have leaders who are pretending to care, even pretending poorly to care, and you don't want us to register our displeasure,
I saw the picture of a bottle of yellowish water from the Pra River. The Pra River is where my grandfather's ashes were spread, and I'm thinking, anyway, I'm glad it was a few years ago that it was spread there, but it is horrifying. And you're right, it is even worse than it was before. And the involvement of the members of the political party speak to the duplicity and the complicity of the current government as well. Mutombo, you've been quiet, but I was so wondering, is there...
Yeah, I was saying that my only, what's painful right now is, so I went to, the concerts late. What I really wished, like right now, looking back, like afterwards, I was like, I should have been in front. I should have really, really been in front. Like, I know that they would have picked me up and all that, but I should have been in front. I should have been in front. That's my biggest, the pain. It's so painful now looking back. But I hope that there would be more opportunities like that, in my lifetime, so I use it to express whatever I feel. And I hope that, more or, many folks would start to talk, would start to, hold these people, accountable. It is just right.
But, I want to open the conversation to everyone to ask any questions and to have a conversation. So to open their mic, talk, ask questions. So feel free. You're all welcome to participate. I also want to say that it's something, I think Bright said this to me, the booing has been happening for a long time. The booing has been taking place through Fix the Country movement, and many, the songs from One Love, the Fucking Boys, the booing has been taking place for a long time. This is Bright's new piece. Bright, do you want to take over? Or do you want to say anything about the piece? Or is it self-explanatory?
This is dope.
I mean, I don't know whether you can see yourselves, but some of the people in this room are there.
Okay, so I think this is a cue that I picked from a conversation with Mensa and some of FOKM boys. One time when we were having a conversation that sometimes satire is good because it allows the artist to speak freely on very, very complex or difficult issues, but it has the risk of desensitizing people when the people you are trying to communicate with only think your purpose is to make them laugh. The laughter is good as like like you mentioned earlier, a release, like some form of catharsis, but it's very, very counterproductive if your messaging gets drowned up in comedy, So for a while, I've been thinking about changing the tone of my work a bit and moving away from just inspiring laughter to maybe a more elevated stance of a pseudo-historian, like recording historic events. And that is what I've done with this particular piece. It is the first time that I think my focus has been more on the other characters in the drawing, aside those recognizable political figures that I usually like to capture. I think what I was trying to do was to record or register the agency, the fight back, the response, still in a very exaggerated way, because at the end of the day, I'm still a caricaturist, and I'm not your regular news portal or TV station to be giving you accounts of what happened at events, but just puts my own exaggerated spin on these things. And again, I hope it goes to inspire more people to make work like this, and just simply speak up.
I want to also point out that Mutombo, your spontaneous booing that is caring for your country also spontaneously inspired Bright to do this piece. So in a way, it's a chain reaction, or it's a piece, your pieces of a puzzle that is still being formed. I think, Bright, I'm actually using your metaphor.
I was actually looking out for me, and I just saw me. So Bright, is it done?
Yes, it is done for now.
Okay,
but it will be extended into other things as time goes on.
Nice. Because I was thinking, like, because I can see some colored parts, so I was thinking, like, why are those like the stones colored?
Charlie, I've run out of color, so even in my computer, I've run out of colors.
Oh, sad.
So I'm not coloring right now, but yeah, eventually it will become a painting. This is too big of a story to just let it slide. So let's see how it goes. I've not been able to paint for the last week and a half because I don't have electricity. I literally have to go to a friend's house just to be able to charge my phone. I can't buy credits on my prepaid meter. I think this is a problem a lot of people in Ghana have also faced this past 2 weeks, and yeah, it's been crazy. Takes us back to 2015 during Doomsaw era.
Yeah,
you
see, and no one's actually calling it Doomsaw as much now. It just seems to be like in his life, like
it's like the bar has already been set so low that anything seems to be okay now. I've already heard the leader of the main opposition party at some events speaking about how he's going to release people who have been jailed for Galamsey when or if he comes back into power. And I'm already wondering where we are going, because as of now, the bar is so low and we seem to be okay with it. So I'm wondering how much worse they can do, and Ghanaians will still let them get away with these things. I mean, these are people who are supposed to serve our interests, not the other way around.
That's a good question. And there's a question from Justice, and he's asking, how can we sustain this messaging moving forward? How can we sustain this? It started spontaneously, but how can we sustain this moving forward? Anyone?
Well, let me reference an old George Orwell quote here. It's very, very simple. It says, like, every tiny joke is a revolution. I think the instance of booing has been so powerful, and it was very, very simple. It didn't require anything, just boo, and that was it. At a point, I even thought they were trying to sing Asha's song. Maybe they were calling for Asha to perform that song. But yeah, people should storm presidential political campaigns and rallies, and irrespective of which party is on the platform, just boo. Every chance you get. If you see the over 30 V8 convoy passing by for your president or vice president, just boo, thumbs down. Let them know that no, they failed, because it seems like they care so much about their PR or branding or image. So that is the only thing that you can soil. Anything else, they seem to be okay with. So now that you, like you say, when you see where heads, that is where you have to pep it.
Yeah. I mean, I must say that this is a beautiful piece of art. And I think I just want to also echo what Oliver said. He said, Bright, when I grow up, I want to be like you. So
Oh no, he's already grown.
he's not grown yet. He wants to be like
He's
you.
already
So
grown.
you give me so much life. And I think this is what it is. It is when there's so much destruction and death, this is what brings life, because booing brings life. The cartoons you do bring life. The songs that the FOKN boys and One Love create bring life. Life because it doesn't allow the things as they are to just stand as they are, but to challenge them, to, to provoke, to disturb, to unsettle. Otherwise, things, like you said, how much can people bear before they will respond? That's a very important question.
Yeah, I think that there is generally been this sense of fear. I think Mutombo spoke about this strongly when he started his submission, but there's this strong sense of fear too that it has been ingrained in a lot of Ghanaians. Growing up, I had similar experiences like he had. That's why I kept on laughing. You go to school, you can't challenge authority there. You are in your home, you definitely can't speak up or challenge authority there. You go to church, the same. You go to your mosque, the same. Wherever you go, you are taught to just submit and be docile. So speaking up for even the most basic things suddenly makes you look like a rebel, which should not be even the case. There are bigger things to fight for. I shouldn't be fighting for a constant supply of electricity in 2022. Come on, people are going to the moon for leisurely activities in other countries. Ghana has been, we've been going back, honestly. I don't think we are moving forward. We've been actually going back, and things are just getting worse, So, it's sometimes I feel like I'm complaining too much, but at the same time, I think there's nothing else to do than to do these things and find therapy.
But you know what? I'm going to also quote, and I'm going to open it to anyone else. I want to quote to One Love when he says that when he responds to these things, to whether it's corruption or it's bad governance or whatever, it's a form of self-therapy. It is so he needs to respond, otherwise he will do something else that is more destructive, right? So to respond is to actually for oneself, to heal oneself. If you don't heal yourself, how can you actually carry on in life? If you don't do something or say something, then you are actually doing something to yourself that is actually harmful.
Exactly.
What do you think about that? Yeah. I was wondering, perhaps we can go back into if you can stop sharing for a while, Bright, and then we can.
Okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Bright, will you post this?
Yeah, I'll post it right after the talk. I just wanted to put it out here first.
So it's already been 1 hour. We've started a few minutes late, so we're going a few minutes past the hour. But I wanted to ask: does anybody have any questions for even Bright is a part of this conversation. Mutombo is also a part of this conversation, but we have people here who might want to ask a question. So a few more minutes just to ask any questions you may have. Feel free.
So maybe we can also talk about this, but how do you feel about mixing uncritical entertainment with activism causes, like was done on that global, citizen stage? Because for me, and it's not because I'm vested in this, but for me, I thought if they really wanted to, speak through musical artists who use music to spread the kind of messages they claim to want to spread, they could have booked other people, maybe call any random member of the audience what they remember from the concert. Was it any of the speeches that were made about climate change, about all the issues they wanted to solve, or it was something else? Which, everything still has its own purpose, but I'd just like to know what the impact was, because I remember the president also calling it a very, very impactful festival, And then I don't know if all of you caught it, but towards the end of his speech, he asked, "Who is enjoying more? Is it us here or those in Central Park?" Little did he know that in Central Park, the politicians were also getting booed. I checked that out, and politicians in the US concert were also getting booed when they came on stage to make a speech. So I think maybe it's a certain consciousness that is catching on. I think people are beginning to see these political leaders as the sources of the problems rather than the solution that they try to position themselves at. But I don't know how you feel about, how some of these festivals are organized.
Yeah, I do get you. There wasn't any conscious act on stage, all of them were, the lyrics in their songs are not conscious. They're always talking about love and money and all that. So yeah, I think like they could have mixed, there should have been a balance. But one thing that was surprising to me was how you call this a green event or climate change, awareness or whatever. But Charlie, I was shocked when I saw, people selling, pure water, plastics everywhere and all that. I'm like, I actually thought, this was going to be cool because the stress of even getting a ticket was, cool to me. So how do you get this wrong? So I don't know. I mean, this is just another money mimicking, thing. And I think that Nana Akudo-Addo was there because there was some money that was going to be given to the government. That's why, hey, then I'm coming to collect.
Yeah.
For me, if you ask me, Emma, I think that was the only reason why he came. Any small chance to make money, Yeah, I think we can now see Oliver, and I think maybe he might want to,
contribute.
Stormont Academy school prefect.
I just kind of wanted to react to the question Bright was asking, because I've had my, struggles with global citizen as well, and it's one of the reasons why I didn't go. Even though I kind of posted it, I've been posting regularly the whole Take Action poster for quite some time. But one of the things to remember, it's not a progressive platform. It's not, right? Like there's all this messaging about climate change and whatever, but there's no intentionality in platforming folks who are, I guess, not palatable to power. And also like a bit of backstory, one of the things that makes this really quite enjoyable is the fact that the president did actually lobby for global citizens to come to Ghana. There was a lot of work put into it before they went to Nigeria the last time, where they lost out to it. So this was something that he'd been seeking for quite some time. I think I saw something about he being in South Africa for one around the same time where he stayed on. So I think it's something that he was really interested in. I know that he cut his trip at the UN short, like to come to rush to Ghana to come and be on stage for this. So it was all the more satisfying, right? Like all these things come together. But I was a bit disappointed. I don't know whether this actually went through when I started seeing some talk about intentions to go apologize to the president and things like that. And it was so undermining of this whole Take Action and whatever thing, But again, I constantly have to keep reminding myself that in moments like this, it's like a delayed, for me, it was like a delayed ejaculation. You take benefit of, even though it's not a progressive platform, there's some small opportunity for a burst out like this. And it's a win, right? Like in a space where you're struggling to find these elements that keep your sanity in check and kind of make you feel like, the system is reacting somewhat to some of the things you're being dealt on a day-to-day. I think in that respect alone, after the thing, I shelved like what I wanted to write about the global citizen because this in itself was a win, and that was sufficient for me, I think,
I mean, I just want to say that, this has suppressed, the Global Citizen Festival has precedent in even like ancient times. You think about the idea of bread and the circuses, which is like the idea that this Roman poet in the 1st or 2nd century coined the term to speak about basically a superficial appeasement by the politicians, by the government, by the people in power of the masses. So the masses are just like made to be happy. And then so that they don't shout, they don't do anything, they don't actively fight back. And I think it didn't work the way they planned it. And thinking about bread and circuses, you think about the Sarkodie song, is it Pizza and Burger?
Yeah. Pizza and Burger.
But I think, Bryce, you were saying that he left something out from that song. Or...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very, very critical of Sarkodie because I love his music, so I'm very, very critical of what he does and what he represents. The first time it caught my attention was when he posted a video on Twitter saying how he wanted to join the global citizen concert stage to use his voice to speak about, issue A, B, C, D. And then I thought, what voice? Is this not the same voice that you used to promote the current government? And then after that, you've been silent. I mean, we're all in Ghana when a few years ago in the previous government, he would make songs that would critique, whatever was going on. There were some of these songs featured on the Corruption Doom Song mixtape, which Garish, very well, very much about. So I was very critical about it, and I wanted to see what would happen on stage. So I was paying attention. And then he opened his set with Pizza and Burger, which is one of my favorite songs of his, because he says things in the song that get people thinking like, ooh, you have to be on your toes. I don't know if it's the style that he and his DJ decided to perform it, or there was some mishap, but anybody who saw the concert can tell me if I was not seeing clearly. There were certain lines in the song he didn't say that I was thinking he would say. I mean, I thought the concert was supposed to be something that was, going to inspire people to change, motivate people to take a certain kind of action. That was the only critical song that he did on the stage. Everything else was, love, money, I have swag, I have a nicer car than you, all these things are okay for whatever they are good for. But in the kind of climate that we find ourselves in, I don't think this is the kind of messaging that should go out to the public. So yeah, I was very, very critical about. And I mean, I've personally done a project with him called Brown Paper Bag, and this was a song that he did criticizing the borrowing that Ghana, Ghana is in so much debt. This current government has borrowed more than every other government ever has. But where is the money? We don't know. We don't know where the money is. So when that song, I got a message from Manifest, who was the other collaborator, and they wanted to use one of my political cartoons. I personally don't like doing music covers because I don't like putting my energy in projects that don't represent maybe what I want to represent. So I was very excited to do this because for a musician with that kind of audience, I thought it would be a very, very good reach. And the song came out and we're like, oh, that's a critical song, da 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 da. And then the next thing, he makes a song and it's literally like, Nana Akudo-Addo, I'm sorry for criticizing you. Nana Twaso. Nana Twaso. And then when Nana comes and he's messing up, you go quiet. Even the way Jocelyn Dumas introduced him on stage, I had a problem with it. He said, this is an artist who does not shy away from, what voice? Masa, let's be serious here. Let's get.
I mean, that's pretty powerful because the artists that were chosen never actually, nothing was subversive. Everything was a liberal or neoliberal discourse, meaning it was according to plan. Nothing was actually challenging the things that were wrong in a government. And in a way, just to say that, just a shout out to Ni, who has actually written Kote Nikoi, who has written about Sark Nation and the Sarkodie. He's done a lot of work on this, and he talks really well about how Sarkodie has, a brand, this kind of very capitalistic brand that he needs to maintain, and what it does. So Brown Paper Bag was powerful. I love that song. I love your cartoon. And so what followed was really a disappointment as well for lots of people, I think, or maybe some don't care, but it is a contradiction. So I am grateful for Mutombo's voice, even though he lost his voice that day. And I'm grateful for the cartoon that you shared, Bright, just now with us, and that you will continue to share with Ghana and the rest of the world. And I will also be happy that to amplify as much as possible. I'm also grateful that Oliver is here and has participated, because I have great respect for all the things that he's done. And One Love, who is silent but always reliable and always has something to add to. You wonder why, if the FOKN boys were on stage, right? What would that be like for the message? How would that change the messaging of that evening? Would it even be possible, right? And that's the thing, that it was never. Anyway, I will, right, you have something to say.
I don't know how the artists were booked. I mean, whoever has the money to pay the piper is who calls the tune. So, fair play on that. I don't know if they will get tired, but the only way to find out is perhaps to also try and organize our own kind of concerts, perhaps on that scale. And then we see which one would really, really be impactful. I've read about a Nigerian called Fela Kuti playing in Ghana, and after that he got banned and he couldn't ever step foot in Ghana. Maybe something like that could have happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to crowdfund and put on our own festival. We'll find a name to call it, and then we'll see what happens.
That's not a bad idea at all. Mutombo, any last words? I want to leave you with the mic.
Me, I've said this before, and I'll say it here. And I said it on my Twitter some years ago, that I wish I had the money and the power to move from place to place, village to village, town to town, to actually make the people know that they can actually change things for themselves if they want to change. To make the people know that they can actually speak. When you speak, you won't die. When you speak, you are helping. You are not even just helping yourself. You are helping your kids, your grandkids, and generations to come. I think we should all strive and use like our voice or whatever we do to speak. And now that I have realized that I can boo, I can now also boo. I'm going to do it. Like any chance I get, I am going to do it. And over the years, I've been fighting in my own small way. Even just last 2 days, like I'm on the Liberation Road. I was just driving towards town, and all I heard was sirens. Then this motorbike comes and kicks my car. Then I saw like 2 or 3 4-wheel drives behind. So I stopped. Then I got out of the car, and I was like, why should you kick my car? Like why should you kick my car? Hey, young boy, move. I'm like, no, I'm asking you a simple question. Why should you kick my car? And that isn't the first time that I've done that. If we start speaking up in our own small way, asking these little questions, why should you do this? Why are you doing this? I think we would see some hope. Yeah.
Charlie, I will leave it with your words, and I want to say thank you to Mutombo the Poet, and to Bright Accra, to Oliver, to One Love, to Catherine, to Justice, to Angel or Angela, everyone who have showed up today. Thank you very much for being here, and I will end the conversation now. Yo.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.